Okay, back now. Dog is in the house. So if you hear her barking, sorry about that. Okay, so now we're going to finish up the rest of the PowerPoint presentation, which is the male reproductive system. I've already told you that you need to make sure that you know all the functions of the organs in the male and female, in the male reproductive system as well as the female, and the process of spermatogenesis and its end product. So we're going to go right on through. I'm going to skip that introduction because you have the ability to find that information. And we'll talk about the specific inflammatory and degenerative diseases. They're not as many as we looked at in the female reproductive system. Orchitis. Jump right into it. Orchitis is inflammation of the testes. The testes are responsible for producing sperm. Remember, they produce it. The epididymis is responsible for storing it. The epididymis is that little thing I said looks, if these are the testes, looks like a little hat that sits right on top of them. And then you've got the seminiferous, the tubules that come from it, the vas deferens, in which the semen actually passes through. Prostatitis is inflammation of the prostate. And we can recall that the prostate is responsible for secreting an alkaline fluid that helps with sperm motility, because we know that the sperm have a pretty good distance to swim if they're trying to fertilize an egg, because they have to actually get all the way through the vagina to pass through the cervix and then travel up the endometrium until they reach the egg and fertilize it in the fallopian tubes. Hydrocele. Well, before I get to hydrocele, let's go ahead and say what epididymitis is. Obviously, that's inflammation of the epididymis. We're good with that. But hydrocele is something that we need to talk about, because if you continue to have this as your career and you find yourself being one of the persons that is considered a principal embalmer, you will encounter hydrocele. Hydrocele is the excessive accumulation of fluid within the scrotum sac. Literally, it just looks like a water balloon. And so ideally, what do you think? What would you think to do when you would see something like that? Just a scrotum sac about the size of a water balloon. Well, if you were thinking to yourself, I need to puncture and let the water out, that's not what you do for hydrocele. Reason being, if you do puncture the scrotum sac, it will continue to leak. The best way to treat hydrocele is to use some absorbent cotton on top of the scrotum sac and saturate it with very astringent fluid. That's one mechanism. Also, you can use astringent, a higher index fluid in your embalming solution. But you have to be cognizant of the fact that if you've got a case that has hydrocele and that case is also jaundice, you've got to weigh out what you want to do. Do I want to use a high index fluid on a jaundice case so I can get rid of hydrocele, or do I want to not risk turning this person green because I have such a high index fluid, but instead I will use my jaundice fluid, or I will use a fluid with a lower index and a higher volume of water and treat the hydrocele topically. You've got to weigh it out. So, in cases of hydrocele, like I said, do not rupture the scrotum sac. What you can do is treat it topically, or when you are actually aspirating. This would take a skilled embalmer to do, because first you're going to aspirate superiorly, because that's what I've told you need to do, because you need to pierce that right atrium of the heart. You need to try to get out as much blood as you aspirate, as much blood out as you can. And plus, we don't want to start from the inferior direction and give all those pathogens a free ride toward the head, face, and neck. So once you have aspirated superiorly and you turn your trocar around, if you have the skill in order to actually go beneath the pelvic bone and go through the scrotum sac from the inside, you would be able to aspirate fluid off that way. But you have to be careful, because if you are too forceful with your trocar, even internally, then you're still going to rupture the scrotum sac. So just be cognizant of cases with hydrocele. It's very important to make sure that the scrotum is not ruptured. because then you will have a problem with leaking. Now, if it happens, and sometimes it may happen, it may happen and you weren't intentionally trying to do it when you were bathing the case. But you need to be advised and you need to know that still treat it topically, but you may want to use some type of protected garment on the case to ensure that the clothes are not soiled. Okay, so that's HydroSeal. And we're clear on that, right? Good deal. Let's move on. Okay, cryptorchism or cryptorchism. You can say it either way. This is a condition that can occur as a result of a viral disease. Actually, mumps can cause this to happen. And that's when the testes do not descend into the scrotum sac. It can be corrected surgically. All that has to be done is the incisions are done, and they may even do it a different way now. But they would need to go in and make sure that they help them to descend into the scrotum sac. But that is a condition that occurs typically before birth. The next condition is hernia. Well, we've already talked about hernias, and I think we talked about hernias in the last chapters that you read in regard to the digestive system. So just make sure you review the information in regard to what a hernia is and the different types of hernias that can occur. Now, the next condition, scrotal lymphedema. Please make sure that you click on this link. And this is just an aside. I happened to be looking at the History Channel one evening, and that information came on, and I was like, this would be perfect for PATH to make sure that they read. And it's actually caused by a parasite, and we'll learn more about you'll learn more about parasitic diseases when you get into microbiology. But it's passed by a biological vector. A vector is an insect or an arthropod that has the ability to transport disease from a microorganism from one place to another, via the bite of a mosquito, or a fly landing and depositing it. So please make sure that you look at that information. I think you'll find it quite interesting. I'll say that. If you have any questions about it, feel free to either email me or send me an email if you have any questions about it. Or you can click more about it on the History Channel, and they will give you information as they have received it as a response to that case. The particular gentleman that you're going to see in the case actually did pass away, even though there were persons that donated to help him have the surgery that he needed in order to try to lead a more normal life with the condition that he had. Okay, next we have adenocarcinoma of the prostate. Once again, you have another hyperlink. It's going to show you the different areas of neoplasia that occur in the prostate. Benign enlargement of the prostate. You know, prostate cancer is prevalent among men, but if detected early, it's treatable. I'm not going to say it's curable because we don't really have a cure for cancer, so to speak. But it's so very slow growing that if it's caught initially, the likelihood of the person continuing to live, it's greatly it goes up. I'll say it like that. Carcinoma of the prostate, leiomyosarcoma. We've already identified and talked about leiomyosarcomas when we talked about the neoplasm in the neoplasm chapter, but please make sure you review it there. Testicular carcinoma is another type of cancer, and then squamous cell carcinoma we know is a type of epithelial cancer, and you can see both tumors 1 and tumor 2, and I believe both of those hyperlinks are of the penis. And then finally we get to the postmortem considerations, and the postmortem considerations are pretty much the same that we had in the female as well. I don't know if discoloration was one that was listed in the female reproductive disorders, but it should have been if it was not. It can be included. Edema, the accumulation of fluid in the tissues, rapid blood coagulation, and discoloration. That concludes both of these. Like I said, if I see that once I get to work on Monday and I review the information, the text, that I have missed something or there's something additional I believe that you need to know, I will be certain to send that information and post anything required in helping you to prepare for your quiz on Thursday. For those of you who have not submitted your disease or disorder, please, please, please do so. No reason to lose 10 points unnecessarily. So with that, I'm going to conclude this lecture. I will see you next Thursday. Some of you I'll see before then, and I hope you have a pleasant weekend and a wonderful Palm Sunday. Bye.